what you watch, look what you watch, know what you watch. Choose the right thing to watch. And this enough to watch. Sticky Stucky Sweet TV with Keith Gargan, Facebook and YouTube. And that enough to watch. The movie star fly take off from Pelpa Time TV said that. Boom!
A big sound, a big tune.
Ja holy Emmanuel I wo Ja Gideon I'm a Gideon. The Gideon I'm a Gideon. The Gideon I'm a Gideon. Well, Gideon go busting out them head again. So much oppression poor people face right now. Them crying out for freedom. Them crying out for free speech. Then said them want to stand up like them black liberators, like Malcolm X and Martin Luther and the ancient monarchy where come pave the way, sir. Free up black people from me tear down them fence, yeah. Gideon I'm a Gideon. The Gideon I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon, well, the Gideon go busting out them head. I listen, I see, I the power of the Trinity. Give us the teaching of His Majesty, and we know war, not every...
Blue, Mr. Gargan, blue. Blue till me dance up me toe.
This is Sticky Stucky Sweet TV with Keith Gargan. Good, healthy food with the X Factor. So give it a like, share, subscribe, and touch up that notification bell. And that is it. Look at that.
Deliver me from my enemy, my God. Set me an eye from those who rise up against me. Deliver me from the workers of iniquity. Save me from the bloodthirsty men. For behold, they lie and wait for my soul. The mighty gather themselves together against me, not for my disobedience, not for my sin, Lord. I have done no wrong, yet they are ready to attack me. Rise up, behold, and help me. You, Lord God of armor, the God of Israel, rouse yourself to punish the nation. Show no mercy to the wicked, traitor, sealer. They return at evening, holding like dogs, and prowl around the city. Behold, they spat with their mouth, so they are in their lips, for they say, Who art us? But you, Lord, laugh at them, you scruff of all the nation. O my strength, I wish for you, for God is my high tower. My God will go before me with his loving kindness. God will let me look at my enemy in triumph. Don't kill them, or my people may forget. Scatter them by their power, and bring them down, Lord, our shield. For the sin of their mouth and the words of their lips, let them be catched in their pride. For the curses and lie which they utter, consume them in wrath, consume them, and they will be no more. Let them know that God rules in Jacob to the ends of the earth. Selah. At evening let them return, let them howl like a dog, and go around the city. They shall wander up and down for food, and wait all night, if they ain't satisfied. But I will sing of your strength, yes, I will sing aloud of your loving kindness in the morning. For you have been my high tower, a refuge in the day of my distress. To you, my strength, I will sing praises, for God is my high tower, the God of my mercy, Selah. Yo, up and running. All when the song done, it's like me have some memory of me, it's a blood clot. I dance some rubber dub with some nice woman and really doing one Lego when the song done. At them days they come back to me. Yeah man. Anyway, we up and running, up and gunning, blessed Friday. Friday evening going into Saturday morning, someplace already. But you know, I'm want to do some because I don't want to sleep off of this and I really say it. I'll wait late. But don't talk about what I tell you say, Jamaica people, and when I say Jamaica people, not really the people, some of them, we call them Kunomono. And we are talking about none other than the blood clot, die-hearted labor right supporter them. The people that make Jamaican look like an idiot and fool. Because the role I watch them. And the thing is this, some of them that are Jamaica, they never travel yet. They must say pack up one place. Some of them travel, because enough of them will defend the shit. Them live a foreign. And the reason I say that, them come a foreign and them see, whether America or England, them there, them see, oh, that's why you see, sometimes, you have to learn to dance a yard before you come dance abroad, And then some of them carry them shit. Just like how them leave Jamaica and carry them arms out, come a foreign, and them get deported and gone back in the same slumber, and the same blood clot thing them in the politics, Believe you me, Because how can someone that are foreign? Forget about the people them who never come a blood clot foreign. A lot of Jamaica never travel. Some of them don't know your blood clot airport. But the people who travel and see what go on, because them in a politics. And know say them little shit I can't go on, What them are going with, and them must jump on the bandwagon. So what them for? Them are a real Jamaica, them are some blood clot, kunomono, no coat. And them are some piece of shit too, believe you me. That's why I say, personally, I just talk how I feel, because them people, me don't understand them. I don't understand them at all. Because them come up foreign and them see the light. Because a lot of things me learn, to be truthful, Because when you got one blood clot and foreign country, first world country, no matter how racist the country is, because I remember England racist from a long time. From my father come here, so my auntie them from way back when, and I take boat, right? We know says that we can read the story, we can hear about the story. So it don't matter, but it's a first world country, and you get your better rascal rights more than Jamaica right now. That's me I say. You get better rights more than Jamaica right now. Because there's no rights in Jamaica for no Jamaican. I'm not talking about ordinary Jamaican people. Only the people in uptown have rights. Right? Someone want to know what's going on. How people cannot behave like this. I defend the undefendable. Things are wrong. And the media the same thing. Remember, Jamaica the first country, like a country, One of the first like a country. We not talk about first world country, where call for end apartheid in South Africa, Yeah, man. Especially the PNP party. Because the Labour Party always they're on the sideline, Because they don't know what them blood clot want, because them are depressive type of people. And it has show up till now. But anyway, the reason why I say this, to say that, that thing where Christoph Tang do for resign. Daryl Valls, $1.4 billion by all bus, and him can't show no receipt. Andrew Wallace 28 bank account. All no certified yet. And all kind of fucking shit. It mix up, The whole, nobody no resign. And because why? Jamaica is a blood clot place where it's not safe in a lot of way now. Since Andrew Wallace coming to power. Because Sia got to try something like that and it couldn't work. Because, people counteract it. The opposition, when them was opposition, PNP, them counteract it, and then them going to power, them did it for 18 years, and change it, and this Andrew Wallace want to come turn it back. Because remember in Westminster, England Parliament, that is the same equivalent. Jamaica supposed to follow that guideline, that standing order, Yeah. And what them do? Them break it up, tear it up. Yeah, man, just like how them blood clot tried to mash up the Constitution. So, me I say right now, you have this British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. He make a bad decision other day. Well, from last year, whatever, last year or 2 years ago. I don't remember when him appoint Peter Mandison, right? I never do a good vetting or checking or thing like that. Them look at thing there, They are much fucking shit like that where Jamaica government do. And still in a government, nobody no resign. No media no hold them to book. Because them on them side. Them till they can't go on the first world country. Because Keir Starmer right now, he man has so much pressure to resign. He must fight for him life. Because the media not playing with him. And the opposition not playing with him neither. And I saw opposition work. Really brawling. Because he make one mistake, As a prime minister, if it was Jamaica, that would have been nothing. That would have been a little blood clot, we call it, a little needle and a ras clot, camel. No matter how you see the camel big, that would also be a little needle and one camel. Because that would have been nothing for everybody think about. And a them thing that really matter, A them thing that really matter. So when even Isaac comes say, well, in contents matter or whatever, that is true. At the contents of the thing. Right? Because he appointed Peter Mandison to be the ambassador to England, America. And the same brother, the Esteem, them man used to fucking a part of Esteem company. And it's on file. And Mandison just feel like he want to push them because they're in that body club. And I say, I'm not sorry for him, I learn my fight for him life. And I'm going to get over it. But this will learn my lesson. Because him under pressure. And the media now play with him neither. The media now play with him. And I like Jamaica media, like Nation Narrow and TVJ, the whole of them, the cleaner. Then I put out the story, they side with the government. So them are part of the shit too. That's why you can't get no better. The amount of people in a JLP government supposed to resign. Right? Andrew Wallace himself should never allow, that could never happen in England, America, Canada, Australia. None of them are a country there. They have to step away. Andrew should never be still at about him a prime minister. Because he should never allow to run back to be a prime minister in the first place. But because Jamaica slack, the people them who follow him and make him check say, well, he must somebody. And the media itself, so him can come on and do this thing now and move like and angle people man a rule with an iron fist. Because this brother here, Keir Starmer, him win with a landslide. And this is one. This is just one little thing, Well, I'm not going to say little, But really, let me say little. It means I compare it to Jamaica shit what go on. With people like Christoph Tang and them things where he's a baby murderer. The amount of baby were dead and the film watch. And the amount of fucking things where go on, people are dead. And nothing in the health service and things like that. And the whole of them still there. The whole of them still there. And them supposed to run on the same regime and statute book as England, because England are the head of Jamaica, still under the king. Because we are not no Republican yet. And the same statute of Westminster style supposed to run at Jamaica. And them tear it up. Well, not them, Andrew Wallace come and tear it up and want to change everything. Him and him wife. Him wife shouldn't even dead neither. If I them a country, all of them gone long time, I have to pack them bag. Then I say all people are rascal I beat one with chair. And Andrew and let's allow them to come back in the power. That can never happen. Would never happen in England. You have woman with teeth like Dalrymple poor and charge. Andrew, let's bring her back in the parliament and she attack on law and order. My blood clot, I don't understand this, I don't understand it at all. So we are talking about this brother here win by a landslide. And him slip up this time because him appoint Peter Mandelson to be the ambassador. And then what you think find out that? And the opposition, and the media latch on pan it. And him in a trouble. When somebody fight for them political life, and them a blood clot now since that Jamaica do so much wicked things. Uno run gone, Nigel Clark run gone, him is a fucking guilty as fuck in a lot of the things, especially the SSL. And him can just escape and gone. What the rascal Jamaica come to? When me see rascal Jamaica was the country where I grew up. And them are the first little country what talk about to mash up apartheid in South Africa. Right? And look where gone back to now. I support Israel. I sell out Cuba. All of this blood clot thing. And it's fucked up. When it gonna blood clot stop? When we gonna get rid of this nastiness? Both woman and man in the parliament. I talk about our government. And I mean that's gonna be nasty self. And yeah, let me tell you something, When you look on these rascal parliament, democratic blood clot, you have to look on it and say, but look on this, man. You look on this. A man make one mistake, It's a bad mistake still. Because Esteem is a big rascal thing we're going right now, worldwide. And even Trump mix up in it and Trump try to divert certain things. But the man go appoint this brother here to be the ambassador and never really do the facts check and the vetting properly. And then now a lot of shit are going and the media grab on upon it. The opposition have beat him. Even him one side. Now fucking play with it. They might talk out. You're going to find it in a blood clot Jamaica Labour Party? No. You're not going to find that. And at them things that me look upon, brother, me I say, boy, what's the fuck going on? Me don't understand. I don't understand a blood clot. It's just really, really, really sad. Andrew should never be Prime Minister. He should never allow to run again. He should step aside. For him carry him fucking one government got court about him rascal thing there. Him should any other country, he have to step aside. But the man still bully himself and still be the Prime Minister. And him a back him like a nasty bomber clad supporters them. Who some of them hungry fuck. About a Labour right shower. Come on. Labour Party win by a landslide the other day. Last election where them win. And the Tory wasn't a power for what? 14 years, something like that. And them win comfortable too. Because Boris Johnson win comfortable. So what? Labour win another day upon a landslide. And the same bomber-clad people them will vote for Tory, want a change, And make Labour win by a landslide, So it's the people have mind. Have a mind of them own. People, little nasty Labour right, supporters them who die-hearted. Me talk die-hearted one them, Me not talk about ordinary people who vote for Labour. And when them see the light, them can't switch. We are talking about the stinking piece of shit them where me don't know if you really class them, See the right, and I go and I say, well then, it's wrong. So they might defend the undefendable. Look what going on to Jamaica and then people still had blood clot. These are the things, and then a little handful of them now, you know. And some of them live a foreign. So them carry the same dirty thing from Jamaica go foreign, the same dirty mind. That's why some people say, well, then they want the blood clot. Make some people know some are Jamaican, you know. Because some of them really, really gone. Them do some things where, boy, I don't know, you know. I don't know. Because when I look on this right, you know, I say, blood clot, look at this. Anyway, we're going to the video. I'm just showing what I go on. Because a lot of people don't really check the geopolitics what I go on, you know. Because me a man we go cross the board. You know, everything. Me a ramp. Because me not just talk about blood clot Jamaican politics. No. Because you have to learn the politics and see what I go on. And wait up and match it up and say, look at this, what I go on and so. This is the Prime Minister. We make a big mistake. Because I'm not going to talk about a little mistake. You can't say it's a little mistake. The man with him have a pint, he was mingling with ST as well. A part of that. So that's one big thing. Just like our Prince Philip, or whatever his name, the Queen's son, and have to pay a lot of money. I know not come out of the hoods yet. And he have to get called out and shame. Him have to go. It's like he what you call it? No, he's what you call it now? He condemned from the fucking monarchy. Yeah, the Queen's son. Through the same ST in there, you know. And the people, them and the media, them never play with him. Not because him the monarchy or the fucking Queen's son. Them rip him apart. You look at the blood clot newspaper them every day. People on the blood clot are nothing good about him, but at Jamaica now they no fucking sugarcoat it up. Just like Rail Reed and Pinnock. All Pinnock in our next thief again, you know. Petrojam, the school money, and him blood clot, Andrew, a pint him in a go. What the bomber rascal going on here? I don't understand this. So anyway, I not got blood clot going on. Because you see right now, me so hungry, you know. So you see them can nasty bomber clot, hungry belly labor right here. But can come. You think them can't come blood clot frighten nobody around here? Yo, frighten who? I want to listen to these people. This is a brother we're under pressure, you know, and see how the opposition attack him and really are going and things like that. Right? And the opposition, I say, I call up on the Jamaican opposition PMP as my party. For more come out there like a Rockweiler, you know, and do more things. Them too soft. Them too fucking soft. And that is the truth. Who don't like it, bite it, because I don't care zero. Because I'm not talking for Bomboclad party. I'm talking for the country. Right? Because I see things where opposition not talk up on neither. The mass killing where police are doing all them things there. Them supposed to come out in a them drone and a fucking condemn it. I don't know why. For England, the two rascal side when I condemn it. The police are doing a fuckery. And kill people unlawfully and things like that. And it's a big rascal country, much blood clot, million fucking people. And you know, hear them things are going on. Little bit of Jamaica. And I don't know what the bomber will go on here, but anyway, people, we're just going to the video. Because I don't really want to show.
Trick it.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. And there are many ways of developing a culture how to run the government in Number 10. I was a witness in the years from the financial crash through to the defeat of the Labour government between 2008 and 2010. And I saw a Prime Minister who would never have come to Parliament or said privately that there were some facts of which he was unaware, because he was a man of detail. He was a man of a large vision, and he's a man who drove the state forward. Now, we may disagree, and I do personally, with some of the decisions he took, but that is a different culture than the one which the two previous Prime Ministers, Truss and our friend who, with his blonde hair, used to offer a culture in Number 10 of the exotic. And we went from the exotic to the toxic. And the fact of the matter is, I did not hear members on the opposite side asking questions about the culture of those two Prime Ministers, though they're here today in great numbers. They contributed to the mess which this country...
Mr Turner, the man is speaking, you just walked right in front. Sorry, John Trickett.
Mr Speaker. So those two Prime Ministers in particular, the chaotic and the exotic, left this country in a disastrous situation. But I do think that a Prime Minister comes to the House and relies, or implies that he relies on a culture of simply process is mistaken. I think the Gordon Brown model, flawed as it was, will be far better than the one which we've heard of from the Prime Minister. I'm sorry to say that, because I want to support a Labour government that's effective. But that is the case. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw the vetting, I saw the decisions, I saw the pressure, I saw the tumult, and I saw Prime Ministers struggling with a party to deliver a different kind of society, a different kind of economy. Now, let me just turn to the present events. What did we learn from Sir Ollie today? I think there are 4 things which matter. First, that the Security Department had tended to be wanting to refuse the vetting of Mandelson when Sir Ollie first arrived, although others had said we don't need a vetting of any kind. And then, whilst the vetting process was going on, the government proceeded with or appeared to proceed with the appointment of Mandelson. And even the King and the United States administration were told that he would be the ambassador. The British state then conspired to deliver a positive vetting because that is what they believed the government wanted. And that was expressed in repeated phone calls from the private office in number 10, which I was very familiar with in those years, to Sir Ollie's private office. The pressure, according to the witness we saw this morning, who looked credible, made a very serious case that he was under pressure to proceed. And no, I'm going to make progress. There are many people standing on all sides, and it may well be pleased with some of the things I'm going to say, because I'm going to develop an argument and I want to proceed with it. The question which I haven't heard answered is, why was it that a group of people in number 10, and possibly the Prime Minister as well, felt that that level of pressure should be placed on the Foreign Office in favour of appointing Mandelson? And I think there are 2 possible answers, but let me focus on one. I think that the political unit in number 10, and possibly the Prime Minister too, wanted Mandelson because he was their close political ally and because he was plugged into a vast international network of what we might call the billionaire class. The truth is that much of the nectars of wealth which Mandelson was plugging into, and so was the President, by the way, was centred around Epstein. And let me just pause in my narrative for a second. None of this debate, none of these facts would emerge were it not for the courage and bravery and resistance of the women who had been treated so appallingly on Epstein Island. But getting Mandelson into Washington as part of that network was the highest priority. A political network of highly reimbursed billionaires, frankly. All of this leaves a bad taste. The government had promised change to the people, but the change which they saw in the end was further to accelerate the integration of the British state and government into the networks of the richest people. But people in our country, certainly in my constituency, didn't vote for that. They wanted a change for their ordinary lives, a better NHS, cost of living improvements and so on and so forth. Well, we've got a long way to go to deliver that, but we did deliver a disaster with the appointment of Mandelson. I've raised the question of unemployment 4 times in recent months. Growing unemployment in our area. It's hard to see how the time which was spent by the government ingratiating ourselves to Washington would really help the unemployed and the poor. And just think about Mandelson's business involvement with Russia and China. So obnoxious is China supposed to be? I think I'm right in saying that this building has spanned all Chinese-based networks, as though these are the agencies of an enemy state. How could it be that Mandelson's links were seen to be of such a low risk? And when it comes to Russia, This House has spent literally hours discussing the appalling behaviour of Putin and Russia in relation to the east of Europe. All of these should have counted against Mandelson, but they were weighed in the balance and they counted less than the opportunity which Mandelson presumably offered as his access to a network of people, which included the President. So let me I want to be very quick. I've made a case. I'm going to just make one final point. Mandelson had played a key role in a faction which sought to change the strategic direction of our party, the Labour Party, and of the government. The truth is, they wanted to change the Labour Party into something it never was. I will do, but very briefly.
I thank the member for giving way. I thank the member for giving way, and he's making an excellent and very important speech. On the point about Labour Together, is he aware that most of the supporters, and indeed, as I understand it, the bankrollers of Labour Together, had nothing whatsoever to do with the traditions of the Labour movement? It was merely using a name in order to try and change the nature of the Labour Party away from its traditional socialist objectives.
Well, I have had a debate previously on Labour Together, so I'll leave the comments which my right friend has made to stand for themselves. This was a faction which sought to change the Labour Party in something it never was. And if we continue down the path which has been chosen, I fear that we are in a downward spiral from which we will not escape.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I start by reflecting on something I feel, I'm sure many members across the House feel, and what our constituents certainly feel, and that is how utterly depressing it is that we're having to have this debate at all. Just a few years after we went through all this under Boris Johnson and the Conservatives, and less than 2 years after the British people voted them out of office for indulging in this sort of chaos and distraction, here we are again. Vladimir Putin is waging war on our continent. Donald Trump is waging war with Iran. We desperately need to strengthen our own national defences. Families and businesses are struggling against the cost of living crisis. Petrol prices have soared, and people are really worried about what Trump's war will mean for their holidays this summer and their energy and food bills this winter. And our NHS is still in crisis. We all have constituents who are waiting weeks to see a GP, people who are dying on corridors in our hospitals, loved ones who aren't getting the care they need. We should be talking about them today. Theirs are the problem the government should be focused on every single day. This is what they promised after all. In their manifesto, they said that the problems in our country are, and I quote, a direct result of a governing party that time and again puts its own interests above the issues that affect families. They promised to change that, but here we are again. Instead of fixing the NHS and social care, instead of properly funding our defence, instead of cutting prices at the pump, here we are having to ask why the Prime Minister appointed the close friend of a notorious paedophile sex trafficker to one of the most important and sensitive jobs in this government. Peter Mandelson, whose relationship with Jeffrey Epstein had been well reported and highlighted to the Prime Minister, who had already been forced to resign in disgrace twice from the previous Labour governments, and who we now know was deemed a national security risk by the government's vetting agency. And so we do, sadly, have to ask, why did the Prime Minister do this? Why did he appoint Mandelson? Why did he announce the appointment before the national security had been done, despite the then Cabinet Secretary Simon Case having told him that should happen first? And why was he so determined to get Mandelson in post that he created, as Ollie Robbins described it this morning, an atmosphere of pressure and a certain dismissiveness about the developed vetting process? A vetting process the Prime Minister had since blamed for his mistakes. And even after all this, even after yesterday's statement, the Prime Minister still hasn't told us why he appointed Mandelson. He admitted that appointing Mandelson was a mistake, and he's apologised for it. He's tried to make the rest about process and officials, but he still hasn't answered the fundamental question, why? But I think we know a big part of the answer, don't we? Donald Trump. This all comes back to the way the Prime Minister decided to approach his relationship with the President when he came back to office last year. Our party urged the Prime Minister to stand up to Trump, to stand together with our allies, to approach him from a position of strength, not weakness. But he chose the opposite course. He decided to try and appease Trump, to flatter Trump, to stroke Trump's ego and hope he'd be nice to us in return. And clearly, he thought Peter Mandelson was the man for that job. So that is it. The decision to try and curry favour with Trump instead of standing up to him. That is the original sin that has landed the Prime Minister and his government in the mess they are in today. And has it worked? Absolutely not.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way. Yesterday I asked the Prime Minister about Peter Mandelson's security vetting condition and his visiting of previous clients, which required him to be accompanied when he visited previous clients. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that we need to find out whether this lack of having accompaniment to visiting Palantir in Washington with the Prime Minister was a one-off, or simply Mandelson continuing business as usual?
Well, my honourable friend was right to ask that question yesterday, and I thought the Prime Minister's response to him was totally inadequate, that those types of meetings had not been recorded. But if we can go back to President Trump, Mr. Speaker, despite all the flattering, Trump has still caused enormous damage to our economy and to the livelihoods of the British people with his tariffs and his war with Iran. Trump still undermines NATO, makes threats against our country and our allies, and insults Britain's armed forces. And just look at what Trump said last night, that Mandelson was a really bad pick. Now, I won't dwell on the hypocrisy of Trump's words, from a man who was close friends with Epstein, who parted with him, and has so far taken no responsibility for that. From a president who still has, as his Commerce Secretary, a neighbour of Epstein, who visited Epstein's island and who lied about his relationship with him. All that is for another debate. But Trump's post, Mr. Speaker, hypocritical as it is, does show the futility of trying to appease him. It shows how pointless it is to make a decision like who to appoint as US ambassador based on what Trump would like most. It doesn't work, it hasn't worked. And I hope that on top of everything else, the Prime Minister and the party opposite will reflect on that point. The approach to Trump has failed. It is time to change course and stand up to him. Stand with our European and Commonwealth allies in defence of our national interest.
In my opposition and I laugh with people, you know. I mean, I say, you know, like fucking Jamaican, I laugh with opposition, with government ministers them when them a bumbleclad do wrong. I laugh and take picture with them, all them things there. No, because I see Philip Paul well, I take picture with Daryl bars and I drink in a bar, all them things there. Them things they can't write, and then him come and try to talk. I don't understand them too, you know what I'm saying? That's why I said them, you have to look on these politics and know so well then, them are serious, them are work with the people. Right? Them are work with the people. And that me I talk about. Different thing from what I go to Jamaica. Yeah, man.
So, Mr. Speaker, this is a mess of the government's own making. A mess born out of a futile attempt to appease Donald Trump. And a mess that just keeps getting worse with today's revelations, uncovered by my honourable friend, the member for West Dorset, that the Prime Minister pushed for the appointment as ambassador of another Labour crony with ties to a sex offender. Catastrophically bad judgments that have created a mess that has distracted and consumed this government and stopped it from focusing on what the British people actually need. Because the people out there don't want more Westminster drama. They're thinking about the hospital appointment that keeps getting pushed back, the mortgage payments that just seem to keep going up, the loved ones who need care but is stuck on a waiting list, the threats to our national security from an ever more dangerous world. Those are the things that keep people up at night, and they deserve a Prime Minister and a government that is focused on them. Our party will never stop making that case. We will never stop holding this government to account, not for the sake of political point scoring, but on behalf of the British people who deserve better than this. Mr. Speaker, the last Conservative government failed our country by getting stuck in a cycle of chaos and scandal and refusing to move on. The question for the Labour Party is whether they will repeat that mistake or finally deliver the change our country needs.
Yeah. Matt Weston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the Right Honourable Member for Kingston and Surbiton. And the point he was making latterly really about the economy and the situation we find ourselves in. I would say the Prime Minister is absolutely focused on that and has been from day one. There are these distractions and it would be great to move on from them, but of course we are entitled to this debate. But I do believe that he wanted to bring order to our trade arrangements, and that was why he was persuaded into appointing Peter Mandelson. And I am not a big fan of Peter Mandelson. I can assure you of that. But what I would say is, just a short year ago, many people in this House were fating him and around the world for the deal that Mandelson managed to strike with the United States. Now, there are many questions about that deal that was struck by Peter Mandelson. But for the purposes of this debate, I just want to come back to some of the points that the Leader of the Opposition made. And I didn't intervene on her because I felt it was absolutely fine for her to continue. But just to pick up on some of the points that she made yesterday, because she amply demonstrated that she was very capable of not prosecuting an argument. She emphasised about process. And there is one thing I would say about this Prime Minister, is that he is absolutely rock solid when it comes to process. You may laugh, but for those of you in this place, those members, Mr. Speaker, who backed Boris Johnson, who accepted his lies in this place, or accepted the word of Liz Truss and that catastrophic kamikaze budget. That would be the question of judgment. On process, this Prime Minister is absolutely rock solid. And a second point I would make about him, Mr. Speaker, is he is a man of utmost decency and would never, ever lie, because he knows that his credibility rests on that. There is a point, I will come in a moment, I am just beginning to make my speech. There is a point here about some sort of conspiracy, some sort of cover-up that is being. And when the Leader of the Opposition speaks of number 10, I think she may be, if I could disabuse of her, the point is between the Prime Minister and the team around him.
Will you give away that point?
And the point is, I will come, there's others that I want to allow in. The point is to differentiate between the team around him and the Prime Minister himself. The Prime Minister clearly delegated responsibilities to his Chief of Staff. Now, it may be the case that the Leader of Opposition missed the fact that the Prime Minister sacked that.
Bernard, please, you're in my visual, be permanently stood up. He'll give way when he wants to, not because you're stood up, obviously. Not Weston.
I will bring in the Right Honourable Gentleman short.
You see, our Speaker really, you know, balance, you know, and a curry favor upon no side. You know, I've that in a blood clot Jamaica with Juliet Holness. She want to control and rule with the iron fist and do things where no appropriate and no way at all. For a Speaker, right? This man I would never pressure the other side. Because he's like an independent person, this, you know, as a speaker. So when I blow to a prime minister, I go appoint his wife to be the speaker. That is something we well plan out. How can two people, wife and husband, will live on the same roof? One is the prime minister and one is the speaker of the house. So them around the country, wife and husband, that will never happen in England. That will never happen in America. And America, first world country, 250 million people. Jamaica, they have a bomb clot, 3 million people. And look where it gone to. So people have to take a look. All them little nasty idiot Labour rights supporters. I'm talking about the die-hearted one them, you know, when all Lego, you know, and still uphold the wrongs. When you take a blood clot leave out of this book and say, oh, speaker, who control the house, all them rascal be fear. Him not take off in no side. And him shut down any guy who make noise until like that. Just watch how him work. And that one at Jamaica. And you get a better rascal at Jamaica. We can't have it like that. And that me I talk about. Yeah, man. So we have to go into geopolitics and just show people who are going, you know?
Shortly, just to ease your patience, Mr. Speaker. But the point being that when he sacked Morgan McSweeney, he realised that there were problems within his team at number 10. Now she may claim that somehow number 10 was the leadership, or number 10 was the worst in living memory. Now, the living memory, I'm not sure how far back that goes for her, but as my honourable friend for Normanton and Hemsworth was saying, that we don't have to go back very far, I would say, to 2022 with a certain Liz Truss and her number 10 operation, or that of Boris Johnson and the 3 years we endured of his lying, his pathological lying in this place. But look, the leader of the opposition, and I will come to him in just a moment, the leader of the opposition was talking about the biggest decision that a Prime Minister can make is about the security of this country. Just a few short weeks ago, she was talking about that the United Kingdom should be drawn into the war in Iran, and it was proven absolutely wrong. I will allow my right honourable friend to come in.
I'm most grateful to the right honourable gentleman, who I know as a friend across this House, and we work together positively on many things. But as I served on the Privileges Committee that studied the Boris case and reached a conclusion upon it, if he wants to help the Prime Minister, I would be rather wary of making parallels between Boris Johnson and the present Prime Minister.
I thank my right honourable friend. I mean, the point I was making was simply to address that from the Leader of the Opposition, who was suggesting the operation at number 10 was the worst in living memory. I think it's quite obvious that that is absolutely not the case. We have just had two very recent examples in 19 to 22 and then in 22-23 under Johnson and Truss. I want to make it quite clear that the way I see the mistake that may have been made by number 10 is the clear delegation, a clear delegation to his Chief of Staff. And that Chief of Staff was at the heart of what I would say is an inner circle within number 10, which no longer exists, of Peter Mandelson, of Morgan McSweeney and Matthew Doyle. And as has come to light just this morning, that Matthew Doyle was also part of that problem.
Yeah. Honourable gentleman for giving way, and there must be a reshuffle coming, Mr. Speaker, because no one would seriously make a speech like this at such serious times. He says the Prime Minister was a stickler for process, and he has claimed that the Prime Minister has somehow delegated responsibility for the appointment. Therefore, can I ask him, with the box note from the Cabinet Secretary, the Chief Advisor to the Prime Minister and Chief Civil Servant, why he advised, and can the honourable gentleman defend the Prime Minister's decision not to follow that advice if he was making the decisions?
this is, look, I am not very close to these operations. I've never been a minister, but that is the honest truth. I have never been a minister, and to answer his point, I do not wish to be a minister either. But I am not close enough to that, so I cannot answer that honestly. But what I can say is what I heard from Sir Ollie Robbins this morning about how he was lent on, and also what documents he may have had access to, and also the vetting report. But look, what I would say, what we've heard today, is that the Chief of Staff lent on the Foreign Office, whether it was on Matthew Doyle or whether it was the appointment of Peter Mandelson. And that is the issue. What I would say is the Prime Minister, in my experience of having known him since 2017, is that he is absolutely straight as a die. He may have accepted the advice, and maybe that advice has now proven to be wrong. But, you know, he's been let down by those around him. He made a mistake. He understands that, and he's accepted that.
Dr. Luke Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. And the court case goes quiet. Those are the immortal words in the famous film, A Few Good Men. That's the realization in that court case that things have moved from process to accountability and responsibility. If you haven't seen the film, it's about two Marines who are on trial for killing another. But the real story that unravels is whether command can deny any responsibility of the actions that it set in motion. Here lies the parallel. When subordinates act on the understood direction of authority, where does responsibility ultimately sit? They acted because of you. It belongs to you. Let's recount the facts that we do, though, that aren't disputed in this House. Lord Mandelson was announced as the Prime Minister to be the US Ambassador from the UK in December 24. UK security vetting recommended against developed vetting clearance in January 2025. The FCDO overruled that recommendation, enabling the appointment, and the Prime Minister stated publicly due process had been followed. Sir Ollie Robbins, then Permanent Secretary, was later dismissed. But what Robbins told us in the committee in November 2025 is telling. Quote, "By the time we are describing, it was clear the Prime Minister wanted to make his appointment himself. Therefore, I understand the FCDO was informed of his decision, acted on it, and via the Foreign Secretary sought and obtained the King's approval for the appointment. In this case, as Chris explained, the Prime Minister took advice and formed a view himself, and we then acted on that view." The FCDO is clear. This wasn't drift. It was acting under direction. The Prime Minister formed that view. They acted on it. Acting on instruction, acting on direction, acting on what the Prime Minister wanted. Yet, since then, the Prime Minister's been trying to separate the decision and the consequence. There's the decision, there are the consequences, but we and this public know you can't separate the two. If an official acts in the shadow of a settled view, responsibility returns to that source where the shadow was first cast. And let's draw some more comparisons in the film, because it's quite telling. Colonel Jessup does not issue the written order. Prime Minister does not personally do the vetting. Subordinates act on a clear command and intent. The FCDO acted on the political intent. The defence by the Colonel was, "I didn't order that." The defence by the Prime Minister was, "I wasn't told." The court finds, though, that authority can't be passive. We in this House say neither can the Prime Minister be. The blame lands on the subordinates, and the same again has happened here. In both cases, the controversy is not on the mechanics, but where the moral and constitutional responsibility resides. Officials were acting on a settled prime ministerial preference. The Prime Minister can't have it both ways. He can't have decisive authority on the way in and plausible deniability on the way out. That's not process, that's power without accountability. If the decision was his, isn't the responsibility his? And if not, why not? And whose is it then? I will give way.
This is probably a useful speech to intervene on due to my striking resemblance to Tom Cruise. But the key point in that scenario was about responsibility. And I think members opposite are probably lucky that Sadiq Khan has cancelled all the tubes today, otherwise there may be another transport mechanism they may be under. But does this not show wider that the Prime Minister is failing in his key role, which is to take responsibility for the decisions he's charged to take?
He's absolutely right, Mr. Speaker, and the bottom line, it really is here. The Prime Minister has shaped the system by having a settled political decision, one that's had horrific consequences, despite all the warnings that we've talked about in this House about Mandelson being fired twice and etc. And is now trying to point to the process as the failings, but the country isn't buying it. The film teaches us this simple lesson: power cannot hide behind those who obey it. And just before I finish, I have a message for the Labour MPs and would like to address them directly. And to paraphrase directly from that famous speech from Colonel Jessup, he says, "The PM neither has the time nor inclination to explain himself to backbenchers who rise and sleep under the blanket of the very majority that he provides, and then questions the manner in which the PM provides it. The PM would rather you say just thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, he suggests you pick up a weapon and stand a post. Either way, he doesn't give a damn about what you're entitled to."
Will my honourable friend give way?
I will give way.
Following the revelations at the Foreign Affairs Select Committee today by Oliver Robbins, who said how the Prime Minister had pushed for Peter Mandelson to be appointed and also was pushing for his former Director of Communications, Matthew Doyle, to be appointed as well, unqualified for the post. Would my honourable friend agree these are not the actions of a Prime Minister concerned about the national interest, rather his personal interest? Nor is it the actions of Prime Minister concerned about national security, merely his job security, particularly pushing for Peter Mandelson, who is a known national security risk.
The member's very senior makes an absolute erudite point. The question is, we still don't know why the Prime Minister chose Mandelson. He's never said exactly the reasons why he did. We can all see the reasons why he shouldn't have done. But I will table.
Can I just ask my honourable friend that there surely can be no situation that he thinks where officials do not flag concerns with ministers or prime ministers, because fundamentally it is them that are accountable to this House and the British public, and what we are talking about is accountability here.
Accountability starts from the top. Absolutely. We've heard in the FCDO today, the message from number 10 was, get this effing done. Yes. Yeah. That was the political directive, and everything else follows suit. And that's exactly what Ollie Robbins has said. And here is where I conclude, Mr. Speaker, because this side of the House knows the truth. The public want the truth. The only question that remains is, can the Labour benchers, the backbenchers, handle the truth? Because surely if they can't, they must do something about it.
Just help the House with how many people got an informal time limit, 7 minutes, and the good example to set that record is Caroline Harris.
I will be very, very brief, as I'm not attempting to audition for a BAFTA, unlike some of my colleagues. And neither am I trying to attempt any factional point scoring, as some colleagues have stated today. The Prime Minister himself said yesterday Peter Mandelson should never have been appointed as our ambassador to the US. So I'm going to be very simple on this one. So can the Chief Secretary tell the House how the Prime Minister has changed the way due diligence and security vetting is conducted before appointments are announced in the future? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sir David Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our ambassador in Washington stands at the nexus of the Five Eyes, with more classified intelligence crossing his desk than cross the desks of most cabinet ministers. It's obviously one of the most important appointments the Prime Minister makes, but it's also one of the most sensitive. A security failure in the post could seriously jeopardise the Five Eyes relationship. The Americans are notoriously twitchy about security. So the appointee's conduct before the appointment must be beyond reproach, and their trustworthiness must be impeccable. Now we had one of our best ambassadors, Karen Pierce, was already in place. She was highly regarded by the State Department and the White House, and contrary to what the Lib Dem leader said, so much so that President Trump called the Prime Minister, urged him to keep Pierce, while expressing concern about Mandelson. One of 3 calls from the White House on her behalf and against him. She was a high-class, high-performance, zero-risk choice. Against that, we had the London establishment view that somehow Mandelson's amoral dark arts would make him a good ambassador, typically espoused by people with no idea what makes a good ambassador. And one of the questions before us in assessing the Prime Minister's judgment is whether Mandelson was a better appointment than Karen Pierce, and if so, was the benefit of that appointment sufficient to outweigh the clear risks of that appointment? And of course the answer to both of those questions is an emphatic no. It was abundantly clear to anyone taking a decision that he was a significant security risk. A man who'd twice been forced to resign from government, with known links to a paedophile, closely associated with Russian oligarch Deripaska, a man who'd been responsible for the deaths of 100 people, personally responsible for murders and extortion, and with whom Mr. Mandelson, or Lord Mandelson as he was then, spent weekends in his Dhaka and in Moscow. Weekends, of course, because the EU doesn't record where you are for a weekend as a commissioner. That's the sort of background we're talking about. And as we heard from my right honourable friend, the leader of my party, he was also non-executive director of Sistema, a Russian arms-dealing company led by a Putin ally. And Mandelson's role at Sistema, when he stood down, he then took a large shareholding, which he kept for some time as well. All of this is in the public domain. It was in the public domain before he was appointed. China, too, I can list them over and over again. TikTok, owned by the Chinese state. Shine, based on Uyghur forced labour. And, of course, he always calls time and time again for, at the time, he called it time and time again for closer Anglo-Chinese relationships. Now, when you make appointments like this, it's not an appointment and not a judgment beyond reasonable doubt. It's not even a judgment on the balance of probabilities. It's a judgment on significant risk. Are you going to take a significant risk with a Five Eyes relationship? Of course you're not. And it should be clear on public data alone that this man is a significant, or was a significant risk. And indeed, the proprieties and ethics team in the Cabinet Office flagged most of the issues I've just described to Number 10 before this process started. And we should remember, and Mr. Speaker, forgive me for being so direct, but Peter Mandelson is a man who has proven he's greedy for money, greedy for glamour, greedy for status, greedy for power, and willing to break the rules to get them. That's the key point, willing to break the rules to get them. Such a man is a classic security risk in the face of Russian or Chinese compromise. That's not to mention the risk posed by, of course, his known involvement with Epstein. Number 10 chose... I'll give way very quickly, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do thank him for giving way. I have to say, I'm not in the Peter Mandelson fan club. I'm old enough to remember his first life in this government. But this morning we heard that the UK
UKVS judged them to be a borderline risk, and we heard how officials thought that that risk could be managed. This is quite different from what you're outlining, of what the honourable gentleman's outlining.
Is the public information. If he wants to get into the argument on UKVS between UKVS, who we're now told was a marginal, and number 10, who says it's a red, the strike-off, he can argue between them. I'm talking about public data. What you should know before you start this process. And number 10, no, he's had his go. Sit down. Number 10 has chosen to ignore these things. And that's critical. Because we've heard already about the pressure put on the Foreign Office over and over again. And forgive me again, Mr. Speaker, but for the direct quote, because it's obscene, but the chairman actually recounted how Morgan McSweeney called Sir Ollie's predecessor and told him, quotes, just fucking approve it. Now, speaking of the committee, he made clear he was under constant pressure and there was an atmosphere of constant chasing. Why? Well, we already know it's not because Mandelson was materially better candidate than Karen Pierce, the brilliant, well-established, highly regarded incumbent with excellent connections to the White House. It was because Mandelson was a leading member of the new Labour aristocracy. Full stop. Not talent, connection. It wasn't even, I mean, it was not in the national interest, plainly, it wasn't even in the Labour interest. It was in the interest of a Labour clique. Now, Mandel's appointment was a decision in complete disregard of the risks, known risks, which explains the Prime Minister's lack of curiosity about the vetting. It wasn't lack of curiosity. He did not ask because he did not want to know. The former Cabinet Secretary warned the Prime Minister he should secure Mandelson's security clearance before the appointment. He was warned on the 11th of December by the Cabinet Office about his past, his public past. And on the 11th of September last year, number 10 was asked by a journalist whether Mandelson had failed to develop vetting. Number 10 knew. It's as plain as a pikestone. So, where do we go from here? We have a Prime Minister and a government in power who are making decisions in the interests of their own clique within their own party. And they're making their interests at the explicit risk of the United Kingdom. The Prime Minister should resign.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Peter Mandelson once spoke of the Labour left being sealed in a tomb. Today, it is the toxic politics he came to represent that should be buried. Politics that repels millions and drifts far from the values on which our party was founded. If we are serious about renewal, serious about learning the lessons of this troubling episode, then we must confront that culture, what enabled it. That means looking at figures such as the Prime Minister's former Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, a protege of Mandelson's, and of the network of influence around him. Mandelson's appointment did not happen in isolation, as we learn today. It reflects a wider direction under the Prime Minister, where those behind the Labour Together project wielded significant influence in developing this toxic culture, which has been allowed to take hold of number 10 in the governing of our country. It points to a political culture that lacks candour, exists to promote wealth and power, and ignores all else in pursuit of this. It's a culture where proximity to power outweighs principle, where access counts far more than accountability, and where the suffering of victims is overshadowed by connections. When decisions are driven by patronage and power is concentrated in a narrow circle, it is not only our internal party democracy that suffers, but the integrity of our public institutions and our country. And too often, it is our civil servants, those who serve with professionalism and integrity, who are left to carry the consequences. I want to commend Sir Ollie Robbins for giving evidence today. His professionalism and dedication after a week where he has been very publicly hounded by some in governments was commendable. And it was good to see his trade union backing him steadfastly at the committee today. Robbins will be a loss to the FCDO and the country, all brought about by a series of catastrophic political decisions by number 10. That is not right, not fair, and it's not what the public expects of elected officials. And because of this, the public will rightly demand accountability and cultural change.
This must begin with a thorough review of the political operation which brought the Prime Minister to power and which clearly continues to carry undue influence over this government. So I once again, as I have asked on multiple occasions, now in both letters to the Prime Minister and speeches in this place, call for a full, transparent and independent investigation into the activities and practices of Labour Together, both prior to and after the election of this government. Only then will we fully understand how this exclusive political network has been able to undermine our democracy and institutions right at the heart of government.
Speaker, like many, I spent the weekend door-knocking in my constituency. People in Bicester and Woodstock are frustrated by delays to medical appointments, fed up with rising prices and fearful about the war in the Middle East. Yet a number of them raised the Prime Minister's handling of the Peter Mandelson saga. Their overwhelming emotion was disappointment that a Prime Minister who promised change has delivered so little, and anger that a Prime Minister who said he would be better than the Tories had failed so badly. The Prime Minister set out yesterday to defend himself. Mr. Speaker, he set out that case like a barrister. He took the narrow view that the charge was misleading the House, and he tried to claim that Sir Ollie Robbins had repeatedly misled him, and so it was only natural that he should have misled us. He failed first by misjudging the seriousness of his failure. It was as though he was charged with petty larceny when the actual offence was gross misconduct decapitation. Yet the crucial weakness in his argument was one of chronology. He cited statements and reports between September 2025 and April 2026, but the crime he sought to defend was committed between December 2024 and January 2025. He had no answer to why he ignored the advice of the Cabinet Secretary to seek security clearance before appointing Mandelson. He could not explain why he announced Mandelson's appointment without conditions, nor why the offer letter to Mandelson, dated before Sir Ollie started work, said that Mandelson had cleared security clearance. Mr. Speaker, the damning evidence given today by Sir Ollie Robbins confirms what the Prime Minister failed to dispel yesterday. There was a complacent culture in Downing Street, indeed there may still be, which had a dismissive approach to vetting Lord Mandelson. The Prime Minister wants us now to believe he would have sacked Mandelson if he had failed vetting. Yet all the evidence then is that he and his team did not care about vetting and even believed it had already been granted. We further learnt this morning that officials in Number 10 asked the FCDO to find an ambassadorial role for Matthew Doyle, another man who was friends with a convicted sex offender. What is worse, they told FCDO officials not to tell the Foreign Secretary. The unavoidable conclusion is that under the Prime Minister and Morgan McSweeney, Number 10 believed it could fix plum jobs for the boys, and they were all boys, Mr. Speaker, with casual disregard for process, propriety or national security. So we come to the consequences of this sorry episode. First, a distinguished civil servant has lost his position as the fall guy for the Prime Minister. I was proud to work with Sir Ollie, and I know the regard held for him by ministers and civil servants. So I am frankly furious, to use a word of the day, to learn that a Number 10 spokesman has just said that Sir Ollie was, and I quote, a man of integrity and professionalism who made an error of judgment. Mr. Speaker, it is extraordinary that when political appointees like Peter Mandelson or the former Deputy Prime Minister are accused of errors of judgment or worse, the Prime Minister has come to that dispatch box and defended them for days. Yet when the Prime Minister's error of judgment was highlighted again, he took a few short hours to dismiss Sir Ollie. In the last 5 days, the Prime Minister has gone further and directed the full power of the state against one man. The Government Legal Service reinterpreted the Cragg Act on Sunday. The Government Communication Service briefed hard against Robbins. And Cabinet Office officials sought to prime the Foreign Affairs Committee before it heard from Sir Ollie today. This state-led assault on one man is unprecedented and it is unacceptable. If the point of committing an error of judgment is to resign, why is the Prime Minister still in post? Second, this whole episode has done grave damage to relations between ministers and civil servants. The Prime Minister once said, and I quote, "When staff make mistakes, I carry the can. I never turn on my staff." No one believes that now. His cowardly reaction has shown civil servants that they should be fearful of future treatment by the Prime Minister, Number 10 and ministers. As a former Permanent Secretary, I believed that the Prime Minister understood and valued the relationship between trust, candour and loyalty that governs the best relationship in ministries. Today, those relationships are shattered and our country will be the poorer for it. And so thirdly, Mr Speaker, my constituents and people up and down the country worried about waiting lists, rising prices and threats to security can have no confidence that this Prime Minister can change our country for the better. When something went wrong in government, the Prime Minister did not take responsibility, he took the easy way out. When called on to defend himself, he failed abjectly. This sorry tale points to a corrupted culture at the heart of Number 10, and there is now only one man left to carry the can. He must complete the clear-out and resign.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I came this morning from the Foreign Affairs Select Committee where we had the opportunity to speak to Sir Ollie Robbins as our witness. So I wanted to use this debate to pull out some of the pertinent points that we heard there, which I think are relevant. But before I start, I absolutely agree with members across the House that are saying that Lord Mandelson was a completely inappropriate and terrible choice for our ambassador. And there has clearly been a failure in the process that ended up with his appointment and vetting. But it's important that we look at what Sir Ollie said in the witness statement today, because some of that contradicts what has been said through some of the statements in the House. The first thing that Sir Ollie said, which I think was important, is that he said to the committee this morning that no ministers, not the Prime Minister, not the Foreign Secretary, nor any other minister or official in Number 10 was given any sight that UKSV had declined Mandelson's security vetting. They had no sight at all of any details of that vetting. And he said that, and he justified that, and he defended that, because no officials and no ministers should have sight of that vetting, because it is extremely personal and sensitive information. I mean, I'm someone that's gone through that process myself when I was working at the Foreign Office. What you do not want to create is any sort of conditions where people are afraid of sharing sensitive information in a vetting process that some period in the future might be leaked, and whether that's to politicians, whether that's to other people in your line management chain, or as we've seen later on, it's been leaked to the press, because that undermines the integrity of the process as a whole. So I think that, firstly, that reinforces what the Prime Minister said yesterday. The second thing he said, Sir Ollie, was he disputed the characterisation that UKSV had failed that Peter Mandelson's vetting, that it was some way a binary choice inside the Foreign Office. It's important that we explain, or I try and justify what Sir Ollie was saying, because the FCDO, they do have a slightly different process to other parts of government, and that is because as an overseas department, a bit like the MOD and other places, there are people that come into those roles with seriously long careers in all sorts of different interests. And I'm not suggesting that Peter Mandelson should have passed the vetting, not at all. But the fact that a borderline case was coming to FCDO and the FCDO was making that decision rather than UKSV was not unusual. That was quite a normal process to happen, according to Sir Ollie's evidence. And it's the sort of thing that is important that we hold in the future. And I think it's important for us to say that as well. And thirdly, I think that is really important is not only did... Please, I'll give way.
I'm really surprised that he's swallowing this guff about it being a borderline case. It was quite clear that security vetting put this in the red box, which meant fail. Sir Ollie is being lauded to the skies now because he's the victim of ruthless prime ministerial politics. But he also has an angle on this, and the angle is that he, shall we say, massaged his own judgment because he knew the pressure that was on him from the government. There was nothing borderline about this. The only reason he's saying it was borderline was because he needs an excuse for having overridden it when he shouldn't have done.
Yes. Please speak to what the witness told us in the inquiry this morning, and he was very clear, and many members made the same case that you're making now, that it was a red box, as we've seen in that evidence that was submitted. But he was very clear that it was borderline. This was very usual for the Foreign Office to conduct these types of cases. And I think you can make your own mind about whether you believe him or believe other people. Please.
What he actually said,
Somebody ball out one. Somebody say take them out. Lift your hand and say mighty God. Reverse them.
Strategy, our vision for economic growth.
Pull them out. Spray them out. Every cockroach, every rat, every criminal. Reverse them. Every chichi boy. Pull them out of parliament, every criminal, every scammer, every political scammer whose account can't count, all of them whose account can't count, back them out, spray them, depush them, some push up in our parliament.
Growth in Wales is unashamedly ambitious and is already delivering results.
Folks. I was pleased to see the Secretary of State and the First Minister launch the Local Growth Fund in Wales this week and to boost jobs and investment.
We're going to Prime Minister question time now. Because you saw this kind of rowdy and crowdy. Yeah, man.
In local economies. This is on top of the local Welsh placemaking grant funding and the UK government's Pride in Place funding, which gives £1.5 million to my constituency, which will improve 6 Monmouthshire towns. Will the Secretary of State update the House on how our two Labour governments are working together to invest in our Welsh communities?
My honourable friend, Mr. Speaker, is right. My honourable friend is right that this Labour government's over £500 million local growth fund will fuel economic growth in every corner of Wales. It will support people to start and to grow their businesses. It will help people to secure new skills and jobs. It will revitalise Welsh communities. And it's a great example of what can be achieved with two Labour governments working together.
Job.
And don't forget, people, you see, the English Labour Party is equivalent to the PNP Party. Them on the same road, right? Them look out for the poor. And, they're more effective more than the Conservative. The Conservative is equivalent to the Jamaica Labour Party. Yeah, man. So this English Labour Party is equivalent to the PNP Party. Them work on the same policy. And them think about the poor more than the other party, side of circle, and that's people have to really understand, you know what I mean? Yeah, man.
One way to support growth in Wales and indeed in Shropshire is to support the Wrexham, Shropshire and Midland Railway Company open access application to the Office and Rail and Road. So would the Secretary of State make a commitment today, similar to that of the Transport Secretary, that the government will not get in the way of this application and allow growth in both Shropshire and in Wales and in the border market towns?
I have to apologise to the honourable member. I didn't hear the first part of his question, but I'm very happy to chat with him afterwards, or if he writes me, and I'll give him a full answer.
Before we come to Prime Minister's questions, may I extend a warm welcome to the Speaker of the Latvian Parliament and her delegation who are with us in the gallery today. We now come to questions to the Prime Minister. Mike Wood.
Oh, yes, I get no, this is Prime Minister question time. All right, we have this at Jamaica. Pure rascal, rubbish, and bangarang, and foolishness. Right? So we just go listen to our opposition grill the government. And we need this type of rascal belly and gut in Jamaica politics. No laughing matter with them and jokey thing. Yeah, man, hear this.
Question 1, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Queen Elizabeth II devoted her life to public service. As we mark the 100th anniversary of her birth, I'm delighted her extraordinary reign will be marked by a permanent memorial. Mr. Speaker, in recent days, we've seen a series of despicable anti-Semitic arson attacks. With additional funding to deploy specialist officers, a fundamental reset of how we counter extremism, an action to tackle the poison of anti-Semitism in our schools, our colleges and the NHS, we will do everything in our power to keep British Jews safe. And I'm sure the whole House will join me in standing with our Jewish community. There is no place in British life for anti-Semitism. Mr. Speaker, today my thoughts are also with the family of Stephen Lawrence, murdered in a racist attack 33 years ago today. We honour his legacy in the fight against racism and providing opportunity for every young person. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Can the Prime Minister deny that Downing Street considered appointing Matthew Doyle to a diplomatic position?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Matthew Doyle worked for many years in public service, for me as Prime Minister and other ministers. When people leave roles in any organisation, there are often conversations about other roles they want to apply for, but nothing came of this.
Today marks the murder, the racist murder of my friend's brother, Stephen Lawrence. Tomorrow is St George's Day. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that now, more than ever, we need to tell the story, the positive story of Englishness, founded in who we are and not of who the far right would like us to be?
Can I thank him for raising this? Of course, it was 33 years ago today that awful murder took place. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to have worked alongside Baroness Lawrence for many years now. She is an incredibly courageous and inspiring campaigner, notwithstanding all of the injustices that have been thrown to her in the last 33 years. We do celebrate St George's Day, we fly our flag, we celebrate this country's values of service, generosity and respect. They, Mr. Speaker, are English values, which is why I love this country so much. There are those that seek to divide us, who tell us people are not welcome and try to rip our communities apart. We will never let them, Mr. Speaker. We stand together, united, and against any challenges that we may face.
Timmy Bear, not the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Prime Minister stand by his statement at the dispatch box on the 10th of September last year that full due process was followed in the appointment of Peter Mandelson as our ambassador to Washington?
Yes, I do. Mr. Speaker, let me make clear at the outset that the appointment itself was a mistake. It was my mistake. I've apologised to the victims for it, and I do so again. What I set out to the House on Monday is that Foreign Office officials granted security clearance to Mandelson against the recommendation of UK security vetting. Yesterday, Sir Ollie Robbins was asked if he shared that decision with me, Number 10, or any other ministers. He gave a clear answer, no. Mr. Speaker, that puts to bed all the allegations levelled at me by those opposite in relation to dishonesty. Last week they were all saying that it must have been shared with me. Sir Ollie was very clear yesterday it was not. I believe not sharing it was a serious error of judgment. That information should have been shared with me and other ministers. And if it had have been, Mandelson would not have been committed to post.
Mr. Speaker, it does not put to bed anything. On the 11th of November 2024, long before any vetting had happened, the Prime Minister received advice from Simon Case, the then Cabinet Secretary. The advice said the appointment would require, and I quote, the necessary security clearances before confirming the Prime Minister's choice. This advice was ignored. So how can the Prime Minister still believe that confirming Mandelson before the security clearances was following full due process?
Mr. Speaker, this was looked into by Sir Chris Wormold. I asked him to review the appointment process, including the vetting. He confirmed, Mr. Speaker, his words, appropriate processes were followed. She's put great weight on the order of events. I remind her what Sir Chris said last November in evidence to the House. He said this, and I quote, when we are making appointments from outside the civil service, the normal thing is for security clearance to happen after appointment, but before the person signs a contract and takes up post. That is what happened in this case. Sir Ollie Robbins himself, Mr. Speaker, also gave evidence, and he said, and I quote, as is normally the case with external appointments in his department, the appointment was made subject to obtaining security clearance. Mr. Speaker, on top of that, Sir Ollie Robbins has made clear that the fact that developed vetting was after announcement made, in his words, no material difference to the conclusion that was reached. And, Mr. Speaker, I add this, that what Sir Ollie Robbins wrote to the committee yesterday was this, and I quote, when the Prime Minister informed the House that the proper process had been followed in respect of national security vetting, he was correct.
It's very interesting that he mentions Chris Wormold. He is relying on advice given to him after Mandelson was sacked by a cabinet secretary the Prime Minister then sacked. That is not relevant. I'm talking about the advice he was given before the appointment. He keeps mentioning Sir Ollie Robbins. Sir Ollie Robbins told us that the Prime Minister even sought clearance from His Majesty the King before the vetting. He'd already got agreement from the US administration. The chair of the Select Committee said that. Mandelson was a done deal. Yesterday, Sir Ollie Robbins said that the focus was on getting Mandelson out to Washington quickly. He said the Prime Minister's team showed a dismissive attitude to vetting, and they even argued Peter Mandelson didn't need any vetting at all. This clearly wasn't proper process. Why was due process not followed?
Mr. Speaker, let me deal with this directly, particularly this question of pressure in relation to the decision to appoint and to put into post Peter Mandelson. So Ollie Robbins could not have been clearer in his evidence yesterday. He said this, I didn't feel under pressure personally in terms of my judgment. His words. Mr. Speaker, he went on to say, I have complete confidence that recommendations to me and the discussions we had and the decision we made were rigorously independent of any pressure. Mr. Speaker, on top of that, he was asked if any conversations led him to believe that Mandelson needed to take up the role regardless of vetting outcome. He said, I can say with certainty it was never put to me in that way. No pressure existed whatsoever in relation to this case. What is unacceptable is that the recommendation of UK SV was not given to me before Mandelson took up his post.
Mr. Speaker, we all heard what Sir Ollie Robbins said yesterday. The fact of the matter is that the Prime Minister spent a lot of time telling us just how furious he was to learn that Mandelson failed the vetting, the same Prime Minister who was trying to get into Washington without any vetting at all. It's just unbelievable. The reason the Cabinet Secretary advised the Prime Minister to carry out full vetting before the appointment, this is common sense, Mr. Speaker, carry out full vetting before the appointment, was to protect our national security. The due diligence document said Mandelson remained on the board of the Kremlin-linked defence company Sistema long after Putin's first invasion of Ukraine in 2014. The Prime Minister told us on Monday that he'd read that due diligence report. Why did the Prime Minister want to make a man with links to the Kremlin our ambassador in Washington?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me deal with the first allegation she put in that question. It was always the case that would be developed vetting in this case. That was the understood process. That was carried out. It was reviewed by Sir Chris Warmold, and he said it was the appropriate process. Sir Ollie was absolutely clear that nobody put pressure on him to make this appointment, either, whatever the sequence, developed a vetting. In relation to what was in the due process, any issues of national security are dealt with in the developed vetting process. I knew that. Peter Mandelson received clearance through that process. The problem was, as I said to the House, I was unaware that UKSV recommended against clearance. That is information that should have been brought to my attention. Mr. Speaker, they recommended with red flags that there shouldn't be clearance, and it was high concern. That information should have been made available to me at the time and subsequently. The fact that it wasn't was a very serious error of judgment.
I don't know what planet the Prime Minister is on, Mr. Speaker. Appointing someone with known links to the Kremlin is not full due process. If anybody had brought that sort of name to me when I was a Secretary of State, I would have said, no way. The Prime Minister thought someone with Kremlin links was still probably okay. Let's do some vetting. Why does this matter? He keeps leaning on Sir Ollie Robbins, a man he sacked. He keeps leaning on him. Sir Ollie Robbins said yesterday that Peter Mandelson was given access to highly classified briefings even before he'd received clearance. That was a clear national security risk. How can the Prime Minister still maintain that full due process was followed?
Mr. Speaker, as a member of the House of Lords and Privy Councillor, and in accordance with guidance, documentation could have been provided to him and was provided to him. Strap material comes after developed vetting, but because he was a Privy Councillor, he could have access to other material before developed vetting.
This is a joke. He says a member of the House of Lords. Does he mean people like Matthew Doyle? Yeah. I'm amazed. Yes, right. I am amazed at the level of chuntering from Labour MPs. He promised them probity. What he's given them is cronyism and an old boys' club where Matthew Doyle is being proposed as an ambassador. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Mr. Speaker, we all heard Sir Ollie Robbins' testimony yesterday. The head of the Foreign Office was sacked for the Prime Minister's own failings. His backbenchers know that is not fair. Even his most loyal cabinet members won't defend it. The Prime Minister did not follow the process the Cabinet Secretary set out in November 2024. He knows he did not follow due process, yet he told the House he had. Mr. Speaker, I cannot accuse the Prime Minister of deliberately misleading the House, but everyone can see what has happened here. This was not due process. Everyone knows the price of misleading the House. Will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility and go?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let's be absolutely clear. Before Mandelson took up his post, UKSV recommended with red flags that clearance should be denied, and there was high concern that that was not brought to my attention or the attention of the Foreign Secretary at the time or subsequently is a very serious error of judgment, and anyone in my position would have lost confidence in the former Permanent Secretary. But, Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition claimed on Friday that Mandelson could not have been cleared against security advice. She was wrong about that. She said that ministers must have been told. She was wrong about that. She claimed there was deliberate dishonesty. She was wrong about that. Wrong, wrong, wrong. She rushed to judgment as she always did, just like the Iran war. Mr. Speaker, I was elected by the British people because they let the country down for 14 long years. Whatever she says, whatever noise they make, nothing is going to distract me from delivering for our country.
In contrast to the preoccupations of the Leader of the Opposition, my constituents are more concerned with the NHS and waiting lists. Thanks to this government, across England, waiting lists are coming down. In my part of the country, waiting lists have fallen by 13,000 in the past year alone. After years of Tory failure, we're getting the NHS back on its feet. Can the Prime Minister share with me what further plans we've got to get waiting lists down even more and to make sure that we've once again got a health service to be proud of?
Well, the party opposite should hang their heads in shame at the state they left our NHS in. And I'm proud that this Labour government is fixing our NHS across the country. Waiting lists, Mr Speaker, the lowest for 3 years. Best A&E waiting times for 5 years. Fastest ambulance response times for half a decade. Cancer patients getting diagnosed in the shortest time on record. Lots done, more to do. That's why we're delivering neighbourhood health centres in every community to speed up care. We did that because we invested. What did they do? They broke the NHS and then they opposed the investment that we put in.
David, Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I associate myself and my party with the comments of the Prime Minister on our wonderful late Queen? And can I also agree with him on the need to confront anti-Semitism wherever it is in our society, and also remembering Stephen Lawrence and his family? Mr Speaker, I'm sure many of us in this House were shocked by the new revelations from Ollie Robbins yesterday. He said Number 10 told him to find a plum job for Matthew Doyle, another Labour crony friends with a convicted sex offender. Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister was asked on Monday whether Number 10 had proposed any political appointments other than Mandelson. Perhaps the last few hours have jogged his memory. Will he confirm today, did he know his office was lobbying for a diplomatic job for Matthew Doyle? And were they doing it on his authority?
Mr Speaker, as I said earlier, Matthew Doyle worked for many years in public service, for me as Prime Minister and other ministers. When people leave roles in any organisation, there are very often conversations about other roles they may want to apply for. In this case, nothing came of it.
Sir Ed Davey.
Mr Speaker, the House and the public watching will note the Prime Minister failed to answer my questions. But Mr Speaker, the chaos in this government mustn't stop us from focusing on the cost of living crisis hitting our country. President Trump's idiotic war with Iran has already pushed up inflation in our country to 3.3%. And the Prime Minister knows there's far worse to come for the British people here on in. They need help now. So will the Prime Minister follow other countries and use the Treasury's extra revenues from higher fuel prices to cut rail and bus fares and slash prices at the pump by 12p a litre?
Yes. Mr Speaker, everybody can see that the conflict is causing serious economic damage in this country and countries around the world. His claim of a windfall for the government are politically misleading and economically illiterate.
Meg Hillier.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, poor housing and temporary accommodation is having a devastating impact on families, their life chances, our schools and communities. Will he put the full weight of government behind ensuring that new developments in London are delivering for Londoners, not private investors and landlords, including on the Billingsgate Market site in my honourable friends Poplar and Limehouse constituencies?
I thank her for a question. We inherited a housing crisis in London, including record numbers of children living in temporary accommodation, because the party opposite failed to build the homes that we need. Mr Speaker, we're building those homes, and I'm looking forward next week when Labour will deliver more security for tenants through our Renters' Rights Act. Can I commend Hackney Council, her council, on getting on with building affordable homes? What a stark contrast to the Green Party, who've proposed 42,000 new homes across the capital and counting.
Mr Fenton Glenn, I'm glad you've found your feet because I could hear you shouting early, so we won't do it next week. Dr Ellie Chance.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister appointed Mandelson in a desperate and doomed attempt to pander to Donald Trump, despite knowing about his friendship with the paedophile Epstein and his links to foreign states. The Prime Minister resisted and then took a dismissive and extraordinarily incurious attitude to vetting, compromising national security. And now he's thrown a civil servant under the bus to save his own skin. All this from a Prime Minister who pledged to restore trust and integrity in government, but who's repeatedly betrayed the trust of voters and let the country down. Does the Prime Minister not recognise that the best thing he can do to restore trust and integrity is to take true responsibility and resign?
Mr. Speaker, let me just correct what she said. There was no dismissive attitude to develop vetting. I knew the post was subject to develop vetting. It was subject to develop vetting. What didn't happen was that I was told of the UK SV recommendation. That was a serious error of judgment. Had I been told, the appointment wouldn't have gone ahead.
Martin Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my constituency of Glasgow North, local people in Somerston experiencing antisocial behaviour tell me that what makes the greatest difference is visible local police officers on the beat. However, since 2017, local police numbers in Glasgow have fallen by 9%, leaving 214 fewer local officers serving communities. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that visible local policing is essential to tackling antisocial behaviour and restoring confidence in our communities?
My honourable friend, Scotland deserves safer streets and more visible policing. In England and Wales, Mr. Speaker, Labour has put 3,000 more neighbourhood police officers on our streets, delivering a named police officer for every neighbourhood. The SNP government has already had 2 decades and record funding to invest in public services. If they knew how to do it, they'd have done it by now, but they haven't.
Mr. Speaker, we know that the Prime Minister has been playing fast and loose with the ministerial appointments in his chumocracy, so I want to ask him about the first one. Mr. Speaker, their boos mean nothing to me, Mr. Speaker. I've seen what makes them cheer. Yes. Jonathan Powell was appointed as the Prime Minister's Special Envoy to the British Indian Ocean Territories on the 6th of September, but throughout August, he held meetings with FCDO officials and was given access to classified information, including a meeting minute between the Prime Minister and the then Foreign Secretary sat next to him on the front bench today. So my question is very simple. When was Jonathan Powell appointed as the Prime Minister's Special Envoy to the British Indian Ocean Territory, and what security clearance did he have upon that appointment?
Let me say that Jonathan Powell is doing an excellent job for this government. He is respected across the world and playing a significant part in dealing with the huge challenges that we face.
Jenny Riddle-Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fertiliser prices are spiralling, and it's not just down to the war in the Middle East. It's also because of the choices of the previous Conservative government who let the UK's last ammonia plant based in Billingham close in 2023. They failed to see it as a nationally critical site that was critical to the UK's food production. And instead that we are now more reliant on volatile imports. If we don't tackle this head-on, higher fertiliser costs will mean higher food prices in the UK. Can I ask the Prime Minister what this government is doing to support British farmers, and does he agree with me that all options to bring down the cost of fertiliser should be on the table, including securing British homemade ammonia once again in the UK?
Well, clearly the Middle East conflict is placing real pressure on farmers. That's why it's very important that we de-escalate. Today, the UK is hosting military planners as work continues with France and other countries to help get the Strait of Hormuz open once the ceasefire holds. We've instructed the CMA to look more closely at fertiliser and red diesel to ensure farmers are getting a fair deal. We're overhauling regulations around fertiliser to diversify supply. On her particular case, we've also taken the decision to open the carbon dioxide plant in Teesside to protect supplies, because we will always act to secure our economy.
Richard Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Leaders can delegate responsibility, but we cannot delegate accountability. Lord Carrington learned this in the army, and he lived it as Foreign Secretary when Argentina invaded the Falklands. In 1982, he held himself accountable for the failures of Foreign Office officials and resigned even though he was later cleared of responsibility. Does the Right Honourable Member not believe in ministerial accountability?
Mr. Speaker, I've set out in terms what I wasn't told in relation to this process. It's clearly information that I should have been given. A UK SV recommendation with a double red flag should have been brought to my attention. It was a serious error of judgment that it wasn't. And anyone in my position would have taken exactly the decision that I took in relation to the Permanent Secretary.
Foxcroft.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Housing is one of the biggest issues in my constituency. Lewisham Council is working hard to improve this, bringing its housing stock back in-house. Non-decent homes have fallen from 1 in 4 to 1 in 10. The repairs backlog was reduced by almost 2/3 and call waiting times have fallen from 70 minutes to 4. However, leaseholders and those with cladding issues still need support. So can the Prime Minister update the House on what this government is doing in these two very vital areas?
Mr. Speaker, we're tackling the injustice of leaseholds and fixing building safety, as she rightly highlights. And I can thank her for campaigning on this over many, many years. Mr. Speaker, we're capping ground rents at £250 to cut costs for almost 4 million leasehold properties. We're investing over £5 billion to remove dangerous cladding, including over £1 billion for social housing. In Lewisham and across the country, I'm determined that everyone should have a safe and secure home.
Lincoln John.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last Thursday, a man was arrested in Laleham in my Spelthorne constituency. He'd been approaching children at the primary school, having been warned by the police not to do so. He was taken into police custody and after further examination, he was detained under the Mental Health Act. Unbelievably, he was living in an unlicensed HMO supported by the Home Office, a stone's throw from the primary school. What I would like to know, Prime Minister, is who was responsible for the risk assessment that put him there. Was it the Home Office? Was it Spelthorne Borough Council? Who screwed up and who can I hold accountable?
Can I thank him for his...
Yeah. But I mean, I tell you, say, if the opposition at Jamaica did really come up so strong and I call for the resignation of Andrew Holness and pressure him like this, and him have a lateral thing where them gonna call for that. But this is just one thing. This Prime Minister make a big mistake. I mean, I'm gonna say, well, there's a mistake because Peter Mandisel linked to Epstein from a longer time, and Russia as well. A long time I never liked a brother still, from Tony Blair days. But anyway, I don't know why they bring him back and the vetting. So you see, what Starmer go through right now, call for him resignation for really resign and step aside, and the pressure on. He might try to fight it hard. But at them like thing when they want to see at Jamaica for Andrew Wallace will get one fight. Me never hear the opposition come out and tell him to resign. More than just take everything so soft. And that's why I'm trying to show you, say, well then, and if you look, and look at the parliament, this parliament, the Westminster Parliament, and the Jamaican Parliament, are the same thing. Set up the same way. Same thing exactly. So you see, at the same rascal, type of standing order them supposed to use, But Andrew Holness mash it up and tear it up and just do what he want to do. But you see, the same model, not change. But the only difference you can see, all them people are really, they don't play with them one another. Right? Who called for blood Andrew Wallace to resign? For so much things them do. If opposition was pressuring him and things like that, so I don't understand what go on. At the end of the day, it's kind of really sticky. it's like, me not understand, you know, all of me can understand, you know, come here compare this, right? With something like this, them have a right to call for him to resign. Because the whole world know about Esteem what him do. And the victim must suffer now because them start from young till them grow up woman now. So them, I feel, I know what go on. And for Esteem to link, if man is to link up with Esteem, and they never vet that and find out, so well then he never fit to be the ambassador. There's no rascal, me not have qualm with say well then I call for him resignation. Although me no man who support Labour. Because I say Labour is equivalent to PMP. But boy, you can't see the difference. Not just a little difference, no, big difference. Because them people don't play with one another. Them just go out and bark like a Rockweiler. Right? When you say that happened to blood clot Andrew Wallace from the PMP side. Them laugh, instead of them do them things, them laugh one another election, run them TV election. All of a sudden, no time PMP can do the election. And no question it. All them things there, that will never happen if it was England. Them things can't happen in England anyway, because anywhere, anybody find a buy vote, a prisoner fucking gone. Just like that. And kick out of parliament. Just like that. So you see, when I try to just compare, it's a big difference. Not small difference, you know. And Jamaica is supposed to follow Westminster model because they're on the same thing. The same parliament, the same statute book, the same standing order. And Juliet come in a rascal, they could have big foot and try to do things when in the rascal standing order. And PMP no study the standing order. Other day look on Julian Robinson. Oh, this little woman a Cockburg. What's her name? Juliet Cockburg or Cockmouth. When one read the report and one nothing. And Juliet Wallace made woman call him down and him no make rascal thing they come speak. Him shut him down. And him at the chair. All them thing a weak, you know, jelly back. So PMP really a slip up. Them have the angle. And them a blood clot. And it to blood clot GLP. To take away the angle from them. And use the blade and cut them up. Juke them up. As far as me say. Yeah, man. So when I show the blood clot two difference of the same brass clot settings at Westminster, the same settings at Jamaica. Because Jamaica still rule under the king. Right? Someone don't know what go on with the PMP opposition. Them too quiet, them too soft. It don't matter what nobody else say. Quiet and soft. And them just go like these people just kick them like a football. Boom, 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 all over the fucking place. I like a booming ball. Yo, what's going on? You have to call them really jellyback. And that's all it is. And it kind of really burn me to see what go on, you know, because at the end of the day, I have to talk when I see and tell the truth. But anyway, that is that. We leave it at that. So we out and running, out and gunning, out.
A big sound up here, big tune. Ja holy Emmanuel, boy. Ja Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. Well, Gideon go busting out them head again. So much oppression, poor people face right now. Them crying out for freedom. Them crying out for free speech. Then said them want to stand up like them black liberators, like Malcolm X and Martin Luther. And the ancient monarchy will come pave the way, sir. Free up black people from me tear down them fence, yeah. Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon. The Gideon, I'm a Gideon, well, the Gideon go busting out them head I listen, I the power of the Trinity. Give us the teaching of His Majesty, and we know war, no devil philosophy. Not until color of a man's skin is abnormal, significant well to the color of his eye. Remember all the war done in 1935.
This is Sticky Stucky Sweet TV with Keith Gargan. Good, healthy food with the X Factor. So give it a like, share, subscribe, and touch up that notification bell. And that is it. Look at that.
On Sticky Stucky TV. If your finger is not sticky, subscribe. But if your finger sticky, do not subscribe on Sticky Stucky TV. Big up yourself, Keith Gargan, straight.